Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Derek Elom Ashlevi. On regular days, what I do is that I cook rice. I'm the host of Talk No the Cook Rice podcast, but that's not the reason why we're here. This morning, climate change is doing something different to our country. And I'd like for you to know that a few months ago, if I saw the clouds gather, I'd be super excited. And in the balance of young people, there's a meme we all post, weather no. But guess what? Now, when I see the rains and the clouds gather, I am not too excited because our environment is bearing the brunt of it. And so what's the point of today's conversation? Climate change is reshaping how communities assess and manage water, affecting livelihoods, health, agriculture, education, and economic opportunities across Ghana. And that's why our counterparts in the northern region would leave and come just because they are experiencing the harsh conditions of climate change. Young people represent a significant part of Ghana's population, and you and I will inherit the long-term consequences of today's climate decisions. And so because of that, and ahead of the 2026 UN Water Conference, and today being International Youth Day, WaterAid Ghana, in partnership with Joy News, has convened this national youth-led roundtable conversation to bring together young climate and water advocates, policy voices, and decision makers. This conversation will provide a platform for young leaders to share their lived experiences, highlight innovative solutions, and engage directly with decision makers on the actions needed to build a climate resilient and water secure Ghana. I've got a lot of videos to show you and some pictures to really paint the picture for you. But before I introduce my panelists and head into the conversation, we've got an amazing lady here today to set the tone for today's conversation. I'm talking about the admin at the Office of the Minister of State for Climate Change and Sustainability at the Office of the President, Madam Ruth Jokoto. Please, let's give a hand for her as we take our keynote address from her. And we set the pace for today's conversation. So she's here with me. Let's do it for her. I must say, I like your outfit. You're looking amazing. Thank you.
While I'm opening my tablet to read for you, I want you to listen to me very well. So if you're on your phone, in the next 10 minutes, I'm sure you'll be scrolling TikTok. But today you are here, so you have to listen to me for the next 10 minutes. Okay? Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here representing the Minister of State for Climate Change and Sustainability, Honorable Saidi Sifu. He extends his regards and wish you the very best in this discussion. Distinguished guests, representatives of government, development partners, civil society, organizations, traditional authorities, members of the media, young climate and water advocates, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is a privilege to join you on this important occasion, particularly as we commemorate International Youth Day and look ahead to the 2026 UN Water Conference. I bring you greetings from the government of Ghana, precisely the Ministry of State for Climate Change and Sustainability. Let me begin by commending Joy News, the multimedia group, and WaterAid Ghana for convening this important national dialogue. The thing before us poses a question. Who gets to shape the decision that determine Ghana's climate and water future? In a blink, yeah. We all know the answer. Young Ghanaians must have a seat at the table and they must help shape the decisions that determine Ghana's climate and water future. Ladies and gentlemen, many Ghana communities are already living with its consequences of climate change, of which I am one. On 29th June 2026, Accra experienced one of the country's most devastating recent flood events approximately 140 millimeters of rain fell within a few hours, more than twice the 56 millimeters recorded during a comparable event in 2025. By early July, NADMO had reported 34 deaths nationally, including 12 in Accra, while more than 91,000 people had been displaced across 7 regions. Travel east along Ghana's coastline, and the story becomes even more profound. In 2021, tidal waves displaced more than 4,000 residents in Keta. Go to the northern part of Ghana, and water is becoming too little. But if coastal Ghana is confronting too much water, northern Ghana is confronting too little water for a region whose primary livelihood is agriculture. Think about that for a moment. People displaced, homes lost, farmlands lost, businesses disrupted, communities forced to confront the possibility that the places where generations of families were born and raised may no longer be safe. These communities are not asking us for theoretical questions or solutions. Just last week, we were in the northern part of Ghana, and the farmer in Kunkua in the Bolgatanga East District is not interested in the policy debate about carbon emissions. She is asking, will there be water for my farm? Will my animals survive? Will my children have food? Should I remain here or migrate to the south? This is why climate policy must also be food policy. Water policy must also be agriculture policy. And climate resilience must also be economic policy. But then again, water security is not only about having water. It is about having safe water. This is another dimension we must confront. Ghana has made significant progress in access to basic drinking water. World Bank data indicate that access to at least basic drinking water services reached approximately 89.9% in 2024, up substantially from 65.5% in 2000. That is progress worth acknowledging. But access to safely managed drinking water remains much lower, 42.9% in 2024, according to World Bank series. This distinction is critical. A household having access to a water source does not automatically mean that the water is safe, reliable, and available when needed. And the challenge becomes even more serious when our water bodies themselves are under pressure. Illegal mining, sand winning, agricultural practices, and untreated waste are identified among the factors contributing to water degradation, which has become an intergenerational justice issue. Ladies and gentlemen, against this background, the theme of today's roundtable becomes even more powerful: our seat at the table. Young people cannot be brought into this conversation just because international frameworks say the youth's participation is important. Young people can become the bridge between climate science and communities. Imagine young climate innovators developing applications that translate weather information into simple messages for farmers. Imagine youth organizations mapping flood-prone communities. Imagine the young entrepreneur creating businesses around water conservation and recycling. Imagine young researchers developing community-level vulnerability maps. Imagine young leaders in Keta documenting coastal change over time using accessible digital technologies. These are not distant possibilities. They are the kind of innovations Ghana should be enabling. As Ghana prepares for the UN 2026 Water Conference, I therefore challenge this gathering to produce more than statements, produce recommendations, produce commitments, produce solutions, and importantly, produce proposals that can be taken from this room to national discussions and international platforms. I would like to see this dialogue answer 5 practical questions. What should Ghana do differently on water and climate? What should government prioritize? What should the private sector finance? What should development partners support? And what are the young Ghanaians prepared to do themselves? Because leadership is not only about demanding action from others. It is about asking, what part of the solution belongs to me? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, when we speak about climate change, we sometimes speak in terms of tons of carbon, millimeters of rainfall, carbon emissions, degrees of warming, and billions of dollars. But behind every statistic is a human being. 140 millimeters of rain became flooded in Accra, 91,000 displaced, 4,000 displaced in Keta, 50% reduction in crop yields. And when only 50% of our water bodies have good ambient water quality, that percentage represents rivers, communities, farmers, fishermen, and families whose lives depend upon those waters. So today, as a young Ghanaian, gathered around this table, I ask you not simply to discuss the climate crisis, interrogate it, design the solution, use the seats that will be given to speak for Keta, speak for Konkua, speak for Nanton, speak for Accra, and use it to speak for the communities along the Pra, Ankobra, and Bonsa. Use it to speak for the farmer, the fisher, and the trader. Use it to speak for yourself. You belong at the table because you are already living the consequences of the decisions being made there. Let us therefore leave this room with a commitment that no community will be left behind, no young voice will be ignored, no river treated as disposable, and no climate warning without climate action. Together, let us build a Ghana that is not merely responding to climate change, but anticipating it, adapting to it, and turning the transition into an opportunity for resilient communities, sustainable livelihoods, and decent green jobs. Let us claim our seats and let's use it well. Thank you very much.
Please give a hand for Madam Ruth Jokoto, admin at the office of the Minister of State for Climate Change and Sustainability. Oh, let's do one more for her. My takeaway from her keynotes was that leadership is finding out what is your part and doing your part. And guess what? It makes me wonder if we are really doing our part. I'm going to take a quick break. When I'm done, I'll introduce my panelists and show you some horrifying visuals that should get us to be really scared about Ghana being climate and water secure. After this break.
Young people are stepping up in the wake of the devastating changing weather patterns. They are leading innovation, intensifying their voices, and calling for a seat at the table where decisions about Ghana's climate action are taken. This International Youth Day, Joy News and WaterAid Ghana bring together young leaders, policymakers, and changemakers for the Young Leaders National Roundtable on Climate, Water, and Ghana's Future. A timely conversation on climate change, water security, and building a more resilient Ghana ahead of the United Nations Water Conference. Join us on Wednesday, the 12th of August at 10 a.m. only on Joy News. Our seat at the table where young voices inspire action and help shape Ghana's future.
welcome back from the break. And I'm not going to be doing this alone. I've got some seasoned and wonderful young people. As the theme for today connotes, our seats at the table. And so I'm joined by a very beautiful group of people. And I'd like to start at my far left. And I'm introducing to you one solid guy who has been very loud about climate advocacy in Ghana. Jerry Anaba. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me, and good morning to my audience.
Beautiful. I can't wait to pick your thoughts on. I have some very strong questions for you because you have been on the field.
Okay.
But aside Jerry, who is very solid, we've still got somebody from Gaio, who, of course, Gaio Eco Clubs Africa, they do so much in the climate space and water space. And so we're joined by the Operations and Programs Officer, Patrick Abekwe. Patrick, it's good to have you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here as well, and grateful for the opportunity. Thanks to Joy News and then also WaterAid for making this possible as well.
Solid. Valerie is a favorite for me, so I'm excited to have her on this panel. Valerie Plum Nutako is the country program coordinator at CDK in Ghana. And at CDK, and they do crazy stuff about climate. In fact, the last time we were in this same auditorium, for the Africa Climate Collaborative, CDK was a part of it. Valerie, it's good to have you back here again.
Good to have you, Derek. And I'm excited about the conversation with WaterAid and Joy News. Thank you.
Solid. Now, we cannot talk about youth climate advocacy and not have a female representative, somebody, we may think that climate affects all of us equally, but no, there's a gender bit that we need to explore. And so we're joined by youth climate advocates who was in the person of Belinda Adongo Nyaba. Belinda, it's good to have you.
Thank you. It's good to have you too.
Beautiful. Before we delve deeply into the conversation, there's a horrifying video I need to show you. June 29th, we saw our country in a state I've never seen brown water that much in my life. And for the first time, I'm about to get ready to go to work. In fact, I was going to be on the morning show, and we see the communique that it's better to stay home. Maybe some of you have forgotten, and some of you do not get the import of today's conversation. And so, just a quick recap of what happened. Then we continue the conversation. Watch.
The Bamcha Rescue Team, area behind Malam Station, behind Malcolm. Please, we need a rescue team.
34 people are dead. Thousands have been forced from their homes. And many families are still searching for loved ones after today's devastating floods.
Days after the heavy rains, residents at my 11 and the Wagerbow municipality are still counting the cost of the devastation.
My family, my sisters, my church members, they are there. Please, we need your help. You are there. Help us. They are down there, and I'm hearing that they say somewhere too is burning.
The Interior Ministry confirms that more than 38,000 people have been displaced, while search and rescue efforts continue.
Till when are we going to be dying like this? That's what we are asking ourselves.
Another person has died.
Another person have died right now, and we just removed that little girl.
All my things are gone.
You're suffering. But this one, I don't think you can blame anybody. You can't blame anybody.
You can't blame anybody?
No. You only manage ourselves, that's all.
As some residents call on government for urgent action, others blame the indiscriminate disposal of waste into drains as a major contributor to the flooding.
You've seen for yourself the horrific nature of this. But many of us will just count this in the losses of properties and life, which is very important. Don't get me wrong. But then, of course, if the gutters are overflowing, think about the potable water you're drinking. Does it even become clean enough for you? And of course, this is what WaterAid has found. That 58.6% of the population in Ghana don't have clean water close to their home. And to quantify that for you, that's 18 million people. There's another video I need to show you. And it's a video of open defecation. You'd probably assume that if Ghana is 69, headed towards 70, we should have sorted this problem a long time ago. Well, WaterAid proves that 87% of Ghana's population don't have a toilet of their own. And do you know that number? 27 million people. 2 weeks ago, a video popped up online and got everybody going agog because we saw a lady right at the beach. And you're going to see the video pretty shortly. And, I mean, the first time I saw it, I was in awe. Open defecation. And to even think that she does it daylight, the effrontery, think of what happens when it's dark. This is very, very, in modern day Ghana, when other countries are advancing in AI, people are taking people to Mars, Artemis 2, Artemis 3. We are fighting open defecation. And that's why today's conversation is very, very important. For that matter, wash in itself, in essence, actually means water, sanitation, and hygiene. And there's a picture I also want to show you. About a month ago, the Wager Dam was spilled, and a landfill site got flooded. To put it in context, a boiler site got flooded. A boiler site. Now, if a boiler site is getting flooded, and these flood waters are going into people's homes, the river, we don't know where the Wager Dam is, and it's going into people's homes, it makes it very, very, very scary. And so this is what WaterAid also proves, that 1 in 4 healthcare facilities in Ghana have no water, and just 16% have a way to clean both hands at point of care and near toilets. And so I'm sure with this picture I've painted for you, you can have a good imagination of why today's conversation is very needed. And I'd like to start off with Patrick. Patrick, you work with Gaio. You've worked directly with young people across environmental education, eco clubs. Beyond all of these conferences and, all the summits we do and all of that, I think for me, I am more interested in the fact that what do the young people tell you about climate change and how it is actually changing their relationship with water?
Thank you so much. Personally, my work with young people, a lot of issues around water because mainly our engagement with the communities, at the beaches, cleaning in the communities, engaging these people. And then you go, and then most of them will tell you that sometimes they're unable to get clean water, even to bath, to drink. They struggle to get basic things. A lot of people, especially some of even the universities, the hostels, they have to buy pure water to bath, to cook. And it's very stressful on their pockets because knowing the current economy, even getting money for your daily upkeep is very difficult. Now you have to use that same money to buy water. Food has not yet come, transportation, moving about. It affects them a lot. I remember recently when the flooding issue came about, some of my, the eco club members were reaching out that they can't go to school. Those that have little businesses that they are doing, they can't get to meet their customers, they can't meet their needs, they have to go buy raw materials to make their products. And all these things, because of the flooding, the incident that happened, they can't go about this. I personally stay at Awutu-Breku, and then I come to Accra to work. When it rains, it's like I spend about 6 hours just commuting from the house to the office. 6 hours in, 6 hours out, sometimes even more. You get home around 1 a.m., 12 a.m., and you have to prepare and come back the following day at 4 a.m. So the stress, psychological stress, the emotional stress that you go through each and every day, you sometimes begin to think that, are you really at the right place? Do you find yourself in the right country? What am I doing wrong? I'm doing my part as a young person, making sure that my community is clean, my homes are clean, doing cleanups, educating people. You sometimes think that maybe the government is also not doing their part. by the end of the day, we don't always want to blame the government because it's a two-way responsibility. So when I feel the government feel, when the government feel, I've also feel because I'm supposed to hold them accountable. So these are some of the things that young people see is really affecting their works and commuting. Even with the women, it's like they can't go to market. They spend long hours fetching water. When I see people, for my house personally, I don't use Ghana water. So I don't see, when you call the water crisis or there's no taps are not flowing, I barely face that. But you realize a lot of people around me, you go to church and people are saying they wish they could come to the church premise to just fetch water and use in their homes. They are sometimes allowed, but how often? Do they always have to walk a lot of kilometers just to get potable drinking water, even water to bath, to cook? I think that we should go beyond that conversation as of now. Yeah, so that's what I can say.
Wow. Thank you so much, Patrick. And I like how you painted a very beautiful picture of what really needs to be done. And I like how you don't take yourself out of the responsibility by acknowledging that it's a two-way street. I want to bring in Valerie. Valerie, what do you think we always keep getting wrong when it comes to water insecurity in Ghana? I think some homes may have accessible water anytime they want. Some are quite privileged. They have their own boreholes. And so when we talk about water insecurity, it's almost as if, why the fuss? You know, why do we need it? What are we really seeing about water insecurity in Ghana?
I think I'll look at it from a systems perspective and a knowledge perspective. So on the systems perspective, I mean, I live in Fadama. Fadama is an old neighborhood. I grew up in Osu, also an old neighborhood. Growing up, I didn't have water issues. I mean, I don't know what it means to not have water flowing in your taps every time. And I live in Fadama down now. I still don't have water issues because those neighborhoods were actually built with the systems in place to ensure that there's a certain flow of water at every particular time because it's marked as maybe a residential area or a space where people stay. But with time, we are expanding and we didn't think about incorporating these systems into the expanded places. So now you have Chado. You have places where there are like new communities that are springing up. They don't have connectivity. They are not connected to the grid. They are not connected to any systems that would necessarily enable them to have water in the first place. That's on the urban front. Now, when you go to the local areas, like in Upper West, there was work that we did along the Volta. And we realized that the problem was not accessing even the water. The problem was getting the water from the Volta back into the farms to serve as an irrigation source. It didn't exist. They don't have any channels, waterways, etc. So they were using traditional means to ensure that they were irrigating their systems. Now, I've talked about the system perspective, whether it's on a governmental level whatsoever. Even on a personal level, Patrick, we're having a discussion this morning about the water system in his home. It's very well set up and all of that. Now we come to the citizens. How are we ourselves making sure that we include it in the homes that we are building? Most of the people here rent in Accra. Except you have a home, then you are outside of Accra. And that's the reality. When you are building, are you looking at what existing waterways are there? Are you looking at the water table? Are you looking at whether you are building in a waterway in itself? It's true that lands in Accra are a problem, like the prices are high and everything. But where are you building yourself? That's one conversation. Then when I talk about knowledge, you see, I always say that, and because of the work we do, we deal a lot with knowledge. When people do not know what to do or what their actions involve or what their action leads to, they don't do the right thing. If you know that you are not supposed to build in the waterway and still go ahead to build, it's not a matter of lack of knowledge. It's a matter of deciding that I'm going to do it regardless. But now when you know that, okay, I've built in the waterway, what next do you do? If they are coming to demolish it, you shouldn't be in the way of it, for instance. It's a hard conversation to have, but it's a real conversation to have. And I'll plug in with what Patrick said. Recently with the floods, I mean, I know a lot of people who were, affected. I had friends sending me videos. People's houses were submerged. People were dying. I remember growing up, and I'm going to talk about an effect that we don't even realize, the mental health effects. When I was growing up in Osu, I remember that there was a day that it rained so heavy, and my dad wasn't home. And in my head, I kept thinking that, hey, will my father come back? Because I'd been seeing on the news at the time, oh, this place is flooded, this place is flooded. It was so scary. And up till now, when it rains, it's a major concern because I keep wondering, where are my loved ones? So if you know that this is what you're supposed to do and like maybe when there's a flood, if you know that this is what you're supposed to do when it's raining, if you know that this is what you're supposed to do when you have issues popping up, you will definitely take the action that is necessary. So you need it's a two-way street. It's a street of knowledge and then the street of systems. We cannot have knowledge and not have the systems that enable us to work with it. And we cannot have systems without the knowledge that is required to operate the systems. And I'll end with this point. I had a conversation last month with a friend of mine from Denmark. And I was asking her about how the system for waste recycling and reuse is like in Denmark, because it was something that came up with a conversation with a podcast, Loud and Green, where they had with the bus stop boys about segregation of waste and everything. And I asked her, and she was explaining that in Denmark, there are channels through which different types of water waste passes through for recyclability, and that it is required by law and by the state that when you are building, you have those channel troughs so that your house is able to produce, feed into the overall grid. Now imagine that there was the law, but there was no enforceability, or there was the law, but then there was no, nobody knew about it. There was not clear dissemination of the information. It took years for people to build their countries like that. I personally believe that we can do it in Ghana. But it starts with us having the knowledge about how to do it, and then the systems in place to enable that we actually do it. If these two don't marry each other, it will be a big problem, and we can see it. I mean, it's an eyesore, and we can all tell. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Valerie. You put it in a lot of context. In fact, growing up, one of the things that we used to do is that there's something called bula. Bula. I don't know if you know bula. Maybe I'm talking to DBs. Yeah, but Charlie, we grew up knowing bula. And those days, you would have to go and fetch, it's literally a well that is dug to the ground that has the water coming out of it. But what we've noticed is that because of droughts now, in fact, now I don't remember last time I saw a well or bula or however we call it in Ghana. And this is even on the southern parts of the country. Imagine those are the northern parts of the country. And that's why I bring in Belinda. Belinda, once again, climate and water insecurity affects all of us. But I have a point of view that it doesn't affect all of us equally. If a lady is probably in her period and there's no water, what are the consequences? And so I want you to paint a picture of how water insecurity really affects women in a way that we probably not thought of.
Thank you. Water, as we all know, women use it a lot. We use it for cooking, we use it for washing, we use it for other things. As you earlier said, assume I'm in my period and there is no water, or I have to walk for a long distance before I get water every day. It means that I won't be clean all the time, because for you to walk a long distance, for you to get water, it means that you will not be able to get it plenty for you to use it for cooking, washing, and at the same time, washing or making yourself clean. So it will be difficult.
Wow. In fact, I hadn't even thought about the distance part of it. Because then if there is no water, you have to, and how many buckets can you fetch to bring back? Because some of us are blessed. You live in a car and Charlie, you leave the shower on. You are actually heating the water before you enter. You may not, and that's why I like this WaterAid. Let's give it up for WaterAid. Let's give it up for WaterAid for this conversation. So it paints a picture of other people's reality that we may not have probably considered. And so, wow. Okay. But Belinda, I'm also wondering, when water becomes scarce and the sanitary conditions or the sanitation systems are failing, of course, like the illegal dam site. The dam site was actually an illegal one, and it had been flooded. And in fact, when we did the story, a woman is at her house, and because of the Wager Dam spillage, the water has washed the rubbish to her doorstep. She didn't do anything about it, but this is what has, the water has brought to her. My question to you is that women and girls often carry responsibilities that aren't immediately visible. What are some of those hidden costs that the people who sit in power and, wear the coats and sit in the V8 they don't see and they think that, oh, everything is fresh, everything is cool. What would you like to tell somebody in power, the policymakers, to really consider about water insecurity and how it affects women?
Thank you. What I would say to them is, actually, women are suffering a lot when it comes to water. Because you being a man, you don't use it mostly. What you use it for is to bath. But there are other things. It's we, the women, that use it to do cooking, washing, and other things. So what I would say to them is that they should create more chances and then maybe more boreholes and water sources for us to use, which will help us to also get chances or maybe get time for our children, get time for our work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Belinda. Oh, give a hand. Give a hand. And I'd like to know the perspective of Jerry. Jerry, I've been meaning to come to you for some time now. Jerry, you are also a climate advocate.
Yes, please.
For me, even the first question is, why is it a big deal? Why not? Why you could have been an advocate for many. I mean, a world of influencers. People are influencers for many, many things. You know, you can be a car enthusiast, a food vlogger. Why climate? What's the importance? You know.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll just take you back to the video we watched earlier. When I first saw the video streaming, I asked myself, is my motherland a failed state? Why do we keep on seeing this every June, July, and August? And then when it happens, we'll have a conversation. Is it not enough? Is our conversation not enough? All the time we have conversations on this issue. And we are expecting it the following year. So after, we have just forgotten of what happened on 29th. We are waiting for another June to come again. And we'll start the conversation again. And our conversations are always, what are the causes? What are the solutions? Do we really put them into action? Now back to your question you just asked. Yes, I realize that climate is something that has to do with our life. Climate has to do with water. It has to do with food. It has to do with jobs. And it has to do with our future. So sometimes you even sit and ask yourself, how is our future like? Do we have future? When you ask yourself this question, and you further probe to ask whether you even want to live and see tomorrow, well, what is happening today? And if you are thinking of the next 20 years, how it will be like, you don't feel like staying at where you currently live. If you have the chance of moving to even to a different planet, you will move. Because things are happening in a way that when you close your eyes to look at the future, you begin to say, no, this is not where I want to be. Is it possible for us to have a different planet? And then the blame game will come in. Citizens will blame government, and government will also talk of citizens' behavior. These two things are very important, even though government has a role to play. But the youth of Ghana, who owns the future of tomorrow, or who owns tomorrow, has a lot of work to do. Climate change has moved from an existential threat to a daily life experience. We are currently living with issues of climate change. Drought is now something very real. I have a rain gauge that was donated to our community by WaterAid. And when you look at last year, June 2025, the amount of rainfall we had is entirely different from what we had this year, June. Then you ask yourself, the quantum of rainfall, is it still the same? No. Last year, June, we had about 3 times fall in the month of June. And this year, June, we just had 1 fall. That is a very heavy one, which almost rained throughout the entire country. And then you look at the volume of water that came to Mother Earth, and you realize that even though it rained about 3 times last year, the one that came once just this year is more than the amount of water that came 3 times last year. Then you begin to ask yourself again and say, things are happening this way. where are we moving to? Then you will not have interest in thinking of any other thing than to be thinking of your life, and that is climate. You can't be thinking of any other things without thinking of or talking about climate, because climate has to do with your future, and your future has to do with water, food, jobs, and then anything you can now talk about. But these things comes into play first.
Wow. In fact, there's data to prove that climate change is part of the top contributors for people migrating to the south. Because then if the north has enough water and stable conditions, they don't need to come to Accra and come and slave, you know. And Jerry, you and Belinda are from the upper east or west? East.
Yes.
You see, I want this as you mentioned, and I like the point you made, that we've made it every day. Citizens blame governments. Government blames citizens. I don't want today's conversation to be one of that. And so I want you to paint a picture of what happens up north. That we in the south may just sit aloof and probably may not be bothered by it. What is happening in upper east that you think that makes climate change a big deal for us to really consider now and do something about it, other than sitting here and folding our legs?
Okay, thank you. Climate change, as we always talk about, I think when it comes to who or which part of the country is experiencing the reality, then you all point fingers to the north, especially in the upper east region, and then the upper regions, that is east and then west. Now, even the underground water, that sometimes you only need to dig a well and you have water. Sometimes when you dig a well this time, you don't get water anymore. That is telling you something. That is to say, the next 10 years, if something is not done about it, then we have to begin getting water from the down south to feed the whole of northern regions.
Wow.
And I'm thinking of how would that be a reality? Can we do it? That is a very terrible thing. So, water scarcity for schools, for health centers, and even for households has become a major problem to northern communities. Sometimes you have to walk for kilometers to have access to potable water. Just water to use for domestic purpose, not for factories and other things. But just to have water to drink, water for schools. Sometimes kids have to go in search for water, spend hours there, and get to school late just because there's no water. Now, when you go to most of the senior high schools in the north, and when it gets to from January to somewhere June, students spend much time searching for water to bath before going to class than the time they will spend rather learning and doing other things that will help them. The same way when you go to health centers, and then that's where my sister was just talking about, women suffered the most. Imagine a woman who is to deliver in a health center, delivering without water. Just look at it and this is a reality. It's not something that we think happens somewhere. These are things that are currently going on up north. So I think this is a conversation that government need to move from conversation and all of us, and really all of us, to actions. It's high time we start looking at how do we solve it. Enough of the conversation. Let's go to the field and start the work. What do we need to do? Do we need climate resilient walls? Do we need more dams at the north? Because this time is a season, or is the rainfall season. This is the time we have enough water. Can we start harvesting rainwater and be using it in the dry season? This year, a lot of people couldn't even go to or use their farmlands because it rained so late. So the early millet that most of the northern communities always plant, they couldn't do it this time. All of us have to move from leaving the early millet to cultivation of maize and other things, and which we are not even sure whether we'll have enough rainfall for those crops to produce something for us. So this is a reality that is happening in the north that will urge government and all other duty bearers to look into it, or else the future for the North is in danger.
Wow. Please give a hand to Jerry. You know, what scares me about what you say is the fact that if we don't take time, we may have to import water literally to the north, bus water. And that's a very scary reality. And that if a child down south can just wake up in the morning, bath and go to school, and his counterpart in the north has to now spend an hour looking for water, finding the water, walking back. By the time he reaches school, one is far more advanced in education, and these two people are supposed to play on the same level. Wow. That's a very scary one. Reminds me of, and I mean, you made a point about dams. And even just yesterday, Bagri Dam has started spilling. And so they are, and so your point about if we had dams, then in times like this where we've had a lot of rains, we can release it. But I remember a politician promising us one district, one dam. And I don't know, because if perhaps that option had worked, we'd probably not be complaining. But Patrick, I come to you. And we are having this conversation because we are not waiting to bear the brunt of the decision makers who, I mean, in maybe some 40 years, 30 years, may not be around again. You and I are going to suffer the brunt. And so it makes sense that we do what we call environmental champions, educate young people on it. But then I'm very concerned. I must be honest with you. If I probably wasn't working with Joy News, and even before I probably came to host the first dialogue and this, I wasn't taking climate education a big deal. How many of us probably knew a lot about climate change? And I mean, so my point is, are we doing enough education for the future bearers who are actually going to fight this,
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think it's a live reality. I think that maybe most of the people I come across in the climate space will tell you that growing up, they had little interest. Most about environment is normal, go to school, you clean your classroom, clean your environment, but not consciously thinking about the bigger picture. It's later that maybe you enter into university, you get someone to drag you to a program before you even get to be in a room to hear about climate change, climate environment. I think a few years back, I joined an organization on campus. They were trying to just speak to young people. What's your knowledge about climate change? Have you heard it before? We were checking that on University of Ghana campus, out of like 10 people that you meet or we had a conversation with, there's only about 2 people that knew about climate change, and that was because of the courses they were doing. It was very alarming. Even at the university level, people didn't know about it. Personally, for me as well, maybe for the SHS I went to, when we had a club that was focused on climate change, so I had the opportunity to hear a bit on it. But I got really deeper into it when I got to university and I was doing BSc in Marine and Fishery Science. That was when I got to really understand the climate change, the impact, not just on the fishes, the environment and all. But I would say that although we are not yet there, some efforts are being made. I know currently GES is working on a curriculum that is trying to integrate the climate science into the education across all levels, so that we make sure that right from infancy, the youth, the children, is embedded in them. I'm particularly more interested in the practicality of it because we've had the education, we've done too much of the talking. You go to some of my lecture, I have one lecturer, Dr. Yakum Hene, who tells you this preaching. You go and hear them preach every day. We preach about the same thing. It's time we begin to take the actions. Let's involve the kids in the action. Simple tests that we can do. Water filtration systems. I think a simple science project. We have, I think we used to do it back in school. I don't know if they still do it. Course, and just like Valerie was mentioning, my home, we have a filter system in the house. Manual. At the top, it has a filtering system made of ceramic. And then in the inlet that feeds directly into the reservoir, main reservoir, has gravels, different levels of gravels, a bit layer of sand, small layer of charcoal in there that filters the water. These are simple experiments that we can teach their kids in school. They begin to understand that they can also take action. So if they do such a small model and they're able to, okay, this is how it's done. In terms of electricity, energy, we are working with them. They know that we are connect this way, I connect that and that. I'm able to make light come. I'm able to let electricity. So they, once at the young stage, they begin to think curiosity builds them. They see fields around. Then their minds are already tuning. What can I do about it? We try our best to also go to some of these schools. We do the practical bit to them, segregating their waste. They do some of these things. But I think that it's still not enough. A lot of effort still needs to go into it. Just as I'm happy like this conversation is going on, we need to have more of such conversation and also a bit more practical. The sanitation day thing is going on, but we still have people that I watched the video recently and the bus stop boys, they showed the video and then I think someone was saying that he doesn't know why he should come and clean the gutters. Once he has paid for rent, he has a landlord he has been paying rent to. The landlord is supposed to make sure that the gutters are clean. That type of mentality is because the person is not aware. The person has not been educated. The person doesn't have that knowledge. Once we're able to get to that level, I also feel our churches can do more. The churches can also do a lot more. The Sunday schools, the youth wings should also begin to take the environmental, the water issues at heart, because they also engage. I think almost every child is affiliated to a particular religion in Ghana. So if at their Sunday school levels, I know I'm a Methodist. In the Methodist calendar, there's actually a month for environment. But I think that we should go beyond just the talking and also begin to have action. So every week, can we have an activity that after church, the kids will get to do at our churches? Can we begin to do waste segregation at the churches? The water that they are drinking. Can we look at improvising, bringing structures? I was even complaining today about even water. We are saying that we want to ban single-use plastic, we want to ban plastics. But you go anywhere, I travel from Awutubeku in the central region to Accra, and I have my small water bottle. I drink before I get to Kaswa. The water is done. How do I fill my bottle? I would have to go back to buying either the bottle, the plastic, or the sachet. Have we thought about introducing filtering system, dispenser systems across vantage points across the city? I know Plastic Punch tried to do something. I don't know how effective it's going, but I know they try to pilot something around that. I'm hoping that they continue it up. So we have these stations, advantage positions, so that people get, at least if someone sees it, they'll ask themselves, what is this for? Then so when people see that we are taking action, and also for the young people in the room and also those watching, don't hide what you do. Some people don't even let their friends know what they are doing. When they are going for cleanups, they are having some discussion. They meet their friends. They don't have discussions about the environment. Once while you're working with your friends, you see a field, begin to have a conversation with them. Look at this field. What can we do about it as youth? Have we thought about the impact? They're talking about the spillage. I think that, I don't know, you're saying it's illegal. I don't know how illegal it is, because I know for now some organizations are trying to start up buyback centers. So at those buyback centers, the big trucks carry the bottles and the sachet to those locations, and then they are put up by it, and then are transported to the recycle, either for shredding or to the recycling companies to be recycled. As mostly they need a permit. So I don't know if the location they had a permit. I can't speak to that, but that's something that is also coming up. Have we started to regularize this? Look at their environment. Have they put in place the necessary strategies to make sure that these folks don't end up back in the communities, or they don't even litter where they find themselves? Pipes, I've seen a lot of pipes also. I think that we also don't think about my action, how my action affects the other person. I believe it's something that a lot of us are not considering at all. Because you go and then you litter, even where you urinate. People anywhere at all, they want to urinate, but I forget that the water you urinate, if there is an open type or pipe by it, your urine can enter into it. So I think it's not only about it. I think people are not also making the effort. We have to also, as citizens, make the conscious effort to make sure that we are protecting our environment. We should forget about the government. I tell people forget about the government. If you do your bit, the government will know that they need to step in. They see what you are doing and they would approach you and want. When Bus Stop Boys started, realized that a lot of government institutions were inviting them to their offices because they liked what they were doing. They saw the impact of what they are doing. If you take action, the politicians will be forced, because they also feel that we are the ones that are going to fight whatever they are doing. So they don't really want to get involved in those things. Yeah. Maybe I'll leave it there and then let the others also have a
Wow,
point.
no, that's a very meaty submission. And I like that. And give it up. Yeah. Thank you so much, Patrick. I like the bit about maybe we should forget the government. But you see, I have a problem with that because everything rises and falls on leadership. I mean, in other regions where the system is working in quotes, it's an enforcement problem. And so that brings me to Valerie. Valerie, let's Ghana not pretend that this is the first time we are talking. Ghana has a water issue and climate is a problem we need to fix and all of that. In fact, even aside suffering water insecurity, the little water bodies we have, Galamsey is taking over. And so my question to you is that Is it really a policy? And I get Jerry's anger. Everyday policy, conversation, policy. Is it really a policy problem or an implementation problem?
It's both. I think before COP30, I saw a publication by WaterAid. More than 100 million people were being affected in terms of access to water, insecurity, etc., because we're losing tree cover. Like we're losing trees across board. So it's both a policy conversation and then an implementation conversation. Why do I say this? Policy stems from a bottom-up approach. It is tried and tested across all developmental trajectory that if there's supposed to be a policy that works, the people should be involved in it. What happens is the inverse, that people are sitting somewhere and then we have a policy that is brought up. And then we say that, implement it. First off, you can't relate to the policy. Second off, how do we implement something that is not even contextual to us? So I come back to the knowledge conversation. If we are if we are looking at policy, the tenets that form the policy should be contextually relevant tenets that are hinged on the evidence available and then the lived experiences of the people. Recently, there was a National Adaptation Plan program which went around the whole country, very remote areas, to collect data to enable them develop the National Adaptation Plans, the National Adaptation Plan for Ghana. When you read that document, you see the intensity to which it was developed, because you can tell that different people went to the ground to make sure that this document was developed robust and contextually relevant to Ghana. Not only did they do that, but there are also implementation strategies that are recommended. So in one policy, you have the policy arm. Now, a policy document is basically saying that this is what we think is good for you to do. But it doesn't necessarily state out everything they are supposed to do. That's why policies work hand in hand with strategy. It works hand in hand with plans, and it works hand in hand with the local people who should be involved in it. Now, let's turn it over to the implementation conversation. We have, over the years, made climate change a one-off conversation instead of looking at it in holism. Climate change is a sustainable development conversation. It should not be done out of place of sustainable development. Once you take it out of it, then we have problems. Climate change comes in because of what we call incremental cost. So, for instance, we have this building that would last 30 years without any effects whatsoever. Standard operating practice, it will last 30 years. But when we have adverse effects of climate change, this building will now last, let's say, 15 years. And these are based on data attributions, synthesis, and all of these things. Now, because the facility would now last only 15 years, the extra 15 years that will now have to be accounted for is what we call incremental cost. And that is what climate change leads to. So now it reduces the lifespan of things, etc., this, that. When we take out climate change from the development conversation, we shoot ourselves in the foot. For instance, I'm going to the farm to go and say that I want to plant climate smart seeds, the orange flesh sweet potato, for instance. The reason I'm going to go and plant it is because I need money. I'm a farmer. At the end of the day, I need the crop to grow, and that's my business. I don't care about whether it is sustainable or whatsoever. All I care about is that the market is ready for orange flesh sweet potatoes, and so I'm going to plant it. I'm implementing a policy without having a gun to my head. I implement it, and it's a reality. When you remove that, when you remove the climate change conversation from the sustainability conversation, then you have problems. A lot of people are driving EVs now. I Uber a lot when I'm going to certain places. Sometimes I sit in EVs, and I've made it a call to always ask them, why are you driving an EV? And the number one answer I've always received is that it's cheaper. If I get up, I can plug in the charging system, and then it lasts me more than necessary throughout the day. And I make my money, I make my returns, I pay Uber their fees, and I'm gone. It's not because they are interested in clean energy alternatives. It's because it makes sense to the pocket. And there's something I think during my grad school in development class, it came up that is economic. Should we chase economic development or we should chase sustainable development? And there are different schools of thoughts that say that chase economic development or growth first, and then people will adjust. If I don't know where my money is, if I don't know where the next meal is coming from, I don't care about whether I'm driving an EV or I don't care about all of those things. But when I understand that I can still make my money and still be sustainable in doing it, then I'll be interested in actually implementing it. Number 2, when people do not know, they don't do better. You can't keep, we say that, oh, we've done a lot of climate education. When we stop, we are talking too much. We're actually not talking too much. When people do not know, they can't do anything. The only reason I believe that I'm even in this space is because my parents are very interested in keeping things sustainable. That's one. Number 2, I went to a government school in Osu, and I remember there were these exchange students who came to teach us how to fold the plastic rubber so that it's smaller, and then you can keep it in the receptacle for longer, so that it's not so many. And people used to buy plastic sachet rubbers in Osu. I grew up seeing it. I didn't know all about ozone layer cover and all of those things, because that's where the greenhouse conversation. I didn't care about it. All I knew is that, oh, if I fold my rubber well, I can put it in a receptacle. The woman who comes around to come and pick it doesn't need to go and stick the long pole into it anymore. They just buy it, and then the school gets to get some money. We use it for our school garden, and then we are happy. I didn't know that it was sustainability, but I just knew that it was the right thing to do. So if we embed it in the development conversation, and we don't make it like, oh, this is development, this is sustainability. I mean, if we don't do that, we'll keep struggling. And then the last part is that research that is done in the community should always go back to the community. WaterAid is doing a lot of research in specific communities. People are giving rain gauges, this, that. When the results come out, the right thing to do is to go back to the same people from which the community knowledge was collected from, and then let them know that these were the findings. There's a story I learned about a woman when she was asked that, oh, how viable are the vegetables she's growing? She said that, oh, it's very good. Why? Because so many students come and do their research, they test their vegetables and things, and they go and they never come back to say what is in it or what is not in it. So it's like, oh, as for me, dear, my vegetables are 100% because, so these are the things. Don't take away the climate change conversation from the development conversation. Let it be together. That's how policy and implementation work hand in hand. Without it, I don't see the way forward.
Wow, oh, give a hand. Beautiful. Now, I like that because we need both. We cannot take one and leave the other. And so I'm excited Ruth is still here so that she takes notes and, of course, carry our voices to the top for us. We're going to be coming to you in the audience. So please, if you have any question at all, we're going to be giving you the microphone. So please stand by. I'll be coming to you shortly. If you have any questions, scribble it down so you don't forget. I'll come to you. You introduce your name and you give the question. When the time is up, I'll come to you. Moving on, Belinda. Of course, even to bite on what Valerie was saying about if people have not solved their basic needs, reminds me of Abraham Maslow's theory. If you've not solved food, clothes, shelter, and water is a big part of food, clothes, shelter, what are we going to Artemis 2 to do? What are we going to do at Mars? So good point there. Belinda, you see, oftentimes we all say, yeah, government must do our part, government must do, but we are sitting here and it's intentional. We've not brought governments. Yeah, they are listening. We know they are listening. That's why we put it on TV. But they will do their part, as Valerie says they should. But what do you and I need to do as young people to help a sustainable climate economy sort of in Ghana? What should we do, we the young people, that we shouldn't wait for government to do?
I'll just use my community as an example. When you come to Upper East region, my community will have a big dump. That is the second largest in the region.
Wow.
So it got to a time that the dump was drying up. It was getting silted. So what we did is that there was this program, SWAP program, that is Securing Water Asset Project. We applied for funding, then they gave us the money. What we did is that we planted trees around the buffer zone to protect it, to protect the water washing soil into the dam. And also, it will help hold the soil so that in the near future, it means that we will not get water in the dam again. Because that particular dam animals from Congo, that is a community near to my community, Congo, Lore, and then other places. They come there to drink water because that's the only sources of water for them in the dry season. So if this is not taken in place, it means that we, the human beings, are going to suffer. The animals too will die. And then that same dam, we use it for dry season farming. But the canals got broken. So with this swap program, they gave us the money, then we did rehabilitation of the canals. So right now, the canals are intact. What we are now hoping for is that we pray that they give us second funding so that we'll extend it to larger portion of land for the youth to engage themselves into dry season farming, which will stop them from moving from the rural area into cities or maybe into the southern circuit, maybe to seek for jobs and other things. It will also help them to stop cutting trees for money, some cutting them for firewood. So this is what we intend doing, and it is happening right now. And this is with the help of WaterAid. This is what we are doing. And then when you come to sanitation site, I'm helping the women to always make sure they clean up the few boreholes we have around. Maybe in a month, I'll go around. What I do is that I'll just take a picture of your borehole. Then I'll ask of the leader. I'll go and show it to the leader. Have you seen how dirty your borehole is? I'm going to post it. And then you, those who are fetching from that borehole, you'll be in what? Problems. So what you need to do is that I'm giving you only 1 week. You have to clean it. And then they will do it. We're also educating them on how to raise money, open bank accounts, keep the money. Anytime the borehole got spoiled, they will use that money to maintain it, which is far better than maybe waiting on the government to come and then repair it. How long will the government come? So this one will help us to be able to maintain it. Another thing we do in our community is that we have something called VSLA, that is Village Saving and Loans Association, which most women in my community are into groups. We have about 25 groups in our local that we call it Adaka Susu. So every week we come together, each group, they will come together. Then any amount you have, you save it, they will write and put it down. And then maybe in case you're in need of any money to solve any problem, you just come to the group. They will give you the loan depending on your strength, maybe how you are contributing in that group. They will give you the loan and give you time to come and do it and pay. This one will also help the women from leaving the rural area and traveling. Because if you get money at the end of the year, let's say 1,000, you can use to start a small business, which will help you and then your children. So back to the question, what I would say is that with this climate change, much of it, or what we need to do is that we, the youth, have to involve ourselves. Because as I just said, I've been going around the boreholes. No one is paying me. But if there is a disease breakup in my community, I'll be affected. My loved ones will be affected. So I've taken it upon myself that I want my community to be clean. I want my community to have good health. So because of that, I'm educating them. I'm helping them to clean everything. We also have something like, we call it Farmer Regenerate.
Okay.
That one is under Well Vision, which they say this shrubs, you prune them, then they'll become what? Trees in the future. So this is what we are doing currently in my community.
Wow.
We have even planted about 900 trees.
Wow.
Yes.
Let's give a hand to Belinda for me. And I think I see what is happening up north. It's more of a communal approach to solving the problem as opposed to we are the south. I don't know, there's some sort of individualism. It's like family home in English as well. It does not concern me, you know. And so I like that they are raising funds, building boreholes, making sure their gutters and all of that are clean. All right. I want us to do some audience, you know. I want your question. And so the lady at the back, kindly stand, your name and your question.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Jovial Rebecca Hagutete, and I would like to applaud Belinda for giving out the intense details of what is happening in northern Ghana. I schooled in UDS, and I've roamed northern Ghana for the past 5 years and still counting. And some communities such as Sankpala is one I would use as an example, where you have to move from like Circle, the runabout around VIP, and probably come to somewhere around KFC before you can start getting water.
Wow.
I'm not using a shortcut. You move straight, pass the second runabout, and come forward before you can get to a point where you think, oh, this point, I think I can get water from here. Or probably places where you think you can get a well. To start asking houses, please, will I get water? Will I get water? And as a student who, let me say, let's put the fact that I work aside. As a student, your mom gives you 100 cedis on maybe a Saturday or Sunday. You have to call someone who is selling water to buy water from the person, right? And what if the person also doesn't get water? You are buying a gallon of water. If it's a dam water, you buy it for like 3 cedis. If it's pipe, you are buying for somewhere 5 cedis. So that's 1 gallon. And you have a barrel to fill. How many gallons are going inside that barrel? If you have someone, a barrel that is going like 4, how long will you use that for? Now, coming to drinking water, there are some waters that is being sold on there, but you can't drink it. Why? Because it's pure water, but it's probably for bathing.
Wow.
Yes. So now to my question.
Yeah.
Which is going to Ms. Valerie and Patrick. We've spoken extensively about governments, the people, and everyone who is involved. Are we talking of water as something that Ghana lacks? Or we are talking about our inability to manage properly, protect, distribute, and reuse the water we already have? Why this question? We have countries that are living in deserts, but they have water. So what happens to Ghana? Thank you.
That's a very valid question. All right, before I let Valerie take it, any other, I want to do 2 before. Yeah, please take it away.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Akon, and I like how the conversation has been so far, especially considering that today is International Youth Day, and this year's theme, different context, common aspirations, and I can see a lot of representation here. And for this particular discussion, I am looking at it from a perspective of a youth advocate in a climate space. When we talk about decisions and policies in the context of climate, how are youth meaningfully included in the process? And so what are the levels at which the various local governance structures are being used to contribute to the greater agenda? Because like Patrick and co have said on the panel, most of the young people are, they really lack the knowledge in terms of climate. So that is the work that the CSOs like GAIO, CDKN, and the rest are doing. But now to the government, how are you including the young people after they have sought the knowledge and they have it now? So how do you bring them to know how they really feel? Thank you.
Michael, I get the question. And Madam Ruth, that question is for you, so please stand by for me. All right. Valerie, deserts even have water. Dubai is now a beautiful tourist destination. Is it a water problem, or we just do not manage our water well?
It's a sustainability problem. And I'll come to something I heard from Dr. Otabil when I was growing up. He said that sustainability is when you're able to leave something there for some, like leave the place that you have left well enough for the next person to be able to use it without having to go through the stress you went through once you enter the place. So for instance, clean your desk before you leave so the next person doesn't have to clean and waste time. We have water. Ghana has a lot of water. In fact, almost every region in this country has a major water body. I mean, aside of maybe we are trying to put the sea through to Kumasi or something, but we have water everywhere. The problem is that we don't have, I think that we've gradually lost a communal spirit, a communal spirit to conservancy and preservation. Government will tell you that, preserve the water, don't do galamsey, we are burning the tools, etc. But the communities themselves, the chiefs involved, the tenderness involved, all these people, how are we actively protecting the little that we have? Now, the pra and cobra, all those places have become brown. When you are, if you are privileged to take maybe a drone across or maybe fly across the country's landscape, you realize that you see a lot of brown water. It's like tea now. You see a lot of brown water, but it's not a matter of government should come and do for you. The communities ourselves are not, we don't have a sense of preservation and conservation anymore.
Wow.
We don't, it doesn't exist. And it's why we keep educating people. As we are sitting here right now, the type of water system, if you are building, you are young people. I don't know if in my generation, most of us will build because most are planning to buy homes because we can't afford to buy the land nowadays. If you want to land, maybe a Brio Busumasi to there. But we can't afford to buy land now. So when you are building as a young person, please remember that you put the right system, they harvest rainwater, get underground water if you can. Be your own person. If not, you won't get anywhere. And I'll touch a bit on the question Michael asked you.
In 20 seconds?
Yes. There's something that there's a song Black Sheriff have that says that if they say you should shut up, keep shouting more. When you are a young person and they don't give you the room to enter, you will enter because, one, you know. Two, you will not be made quiet. Nobody should keep you quiet. Shout more. Advocate for yourself. Push yourselves into the room that matter. And when you do get into the room, don't speak because you're a young person. Speak because you're a citizen of a country and you don't want a failed state. And that you are a knowledgeable citizen of this country. And so you would make sure that your needs are heard and you are not a spectator. I hope that helps.
Wow. It reminds me of the video, say, you are shouting. I am shouting. You know. Yeah, Patrick, take it away.
To Dovian's question, I also feel that we are taking it for granted because we have the resource. We are not really considering conserving it because I know no matter what I do, there's water there. When I go, I'll still get the water. We are not really thinking about that the water can run out. We can run out of water at some areas. Rainfall can reduce, streams will dry out and all those things. We are not really thinking much about those things. I think we should begin to think about those key things as well. And also, because I'm not affected, I don't care. I'm not the one facing the problem. My community, my house, I always have water. So why do I have to care about someone? So I think that is one of the things that is making us suffer when it comes to water. Wow. But what other places? To also maybe come on to what Michael also said.
In 20 seconds?
In 20 seconds. I think Gayo has been working on a few projects. I think that what you mentioned, when it comes to policy, I believe that some youth, although they are interested, they don't know how to get to the table. They don't know when it gets there, what are the conversations that are going on, what are they going to contribute. So I think for some time now, Guy has had the African Youth Negotiators training, which we've partnered with CDK on for some of the course that we've done, where we train them on policy discussions. It's related to COP and all those things, but then with the basics, once they have the understanding of what happens there, when they come locally, they're able to use the knowledge that they've also harnessed. Currently, in Guy, we are working on the Africa Water and Climate, Africa Youth Water and Climate Engagement Initiative. Is basically to understand the issues of water when it comes to water around Africa, the continent. What is the issue? We want to understand the perspective of the young people. Then we're able to come up with solutions. How are we going to solve these problems? We are engaging the youth to have this done. Please follow our socials. We are going to have a consultation next week, Monday. So please follow our socials. And
you guys are doing impressive. And of course, we are all going to be shouting about climate. So whatever you do, we'll support you. Madam Ruth, please, the question for you that you are not involving us, so what should we do? Is there a plan for young people?
Of course there is. Mike is a very good friend, so I'm sure he intentionally did that. Anyways, Office of the Minister of State for Climate Change and Sustainability is a novelty. I'm very sure we are all aware that it was set up last year because this very government is interested in the matters of climate change and sustainability. Just after the office was set up, the minister in charge of it, the Minister of State, Honorable Isifu Seidu, had a ton of conversation with young people, especially in the CSO. Valerie has been to the office. Gayo has been there. A lot of CSOs were there, were involved in what they think we can do as an advisory group for the government in charge of climate change. So we took this information from them as very important ones, and then we have been working with a lot of them so far on most of the projects we do. That being aside, government is not just involving the people in the urban centers. Last week we got back, we had about 2 weeks, 2 days.
In 10 seconds.
Conversation with the people up north, and the experience has been very real because we wanted to know from their perspectives. And then this is a conversation that we've had with youth and women in the communities up north, and then we got to know their very perspectives when it comes to climate change. So youth are very much involved when it comes to the work we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ibrahim, you are with WaterAid. Oh, you can kindly pass the microphone to him. And he's going to make a quick contribution. I can't have Ibrahim in the audience and not take his mind. Ibrahim, once again, what do you make of what government is doing and what young people are doing in the climate, our fight for climate change and water security? Is this something that maybe we should give up? I mean, if Ruth is saying that the office was just set up, maybe we should give them some grace, or maybe we should still, in the words of Blacko, shout. Whether they open our mouth or close our mouth, we should still shout. What do you have to say, Brian?
Thank you very much, and greetings from WaterAid Ghana, especially from our country director. I'm sure she is enjoying this conversation, and kudos to the panelists. They've so far done very good job, and we also commend Joy, your partnership with our office, WaterAid Ghana. I think this conversation is situated around what the youth can do. And we do know that the youth have the energy, they have the creativity, and if you like, they have the space. I mean, they have the networks. So this conversation is situated around that on an International Youth Day. I like a quote I picked from Jerry from Asaloko. Climate change has moved from existential threats to daily experiences. For me, this is a very important statement. But looking at what we are discussing today, I think government can do more to tap the energy, the creativity, the dexterity, and the networks of the youth. Number one, in terms of policy, I am very clear that the Ministry of Youth and Climate Change at the Office of the President, they are currently trying to roll out some climate units in all the 261 MMDs. This is a significant policy move that the youth can tap into, because Ghana is operating a decentralized development process. And once every district will have the opportunity to have these climate units within each metropolitan district and municipal assembly, what that means is that the youth can take advantage and engage the district assemblies, especially in relation to their medium-term development plans. What climate resilient actions do they plan to implement? And how can the youth support in terms of disseminating information, using the various technologies that the youth are very conversant with. And I think I also like what Belinda said in her conversation. She's daily in touch with her community women who, remember, women, the youth and old people are disproportionately affected more by climate change than the energetic ones. And so that is very crucial. So I'm enjoying the conversation. But just one last point on the Ghana water issue.
Okay.
Water Resources Commission is the lead agency that monitors our water stock. And so we are told that we have enough water stock. But the trick is that galamsey and climate change is reducing that stock. And so that is why this conversation is important. Yeah. How can the youth engage traditional authority to, if you like, nip galamsey in the bud which is very prevalent in southern Ghana, but also in some areas in northern Ghana, say no to galamsey. But also, how can the youth join forces on climate action so that government can be able to deliver on its climate promises in the NAPS and then the emerging NDC? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Let's give him a hand. Thank you once again. Okay.
It is not the Ministry of Youth, but my side.
Okay.
Minister of State for Climate Change.
Yes,
so
please.
The MMDA units are for Minister of State for Climate Change and Sustainability.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. We're grateful. I'm pressed for time, but I still just want to do one question. It must just one question. I'll do two. So the gentleman with the microphone and the lady in green. Quickly, in 10 seconds.
In 10 seconds. Okay, thank you very much. My name is Felis. I'm just a youth advocate. My question is to everybody here. I'm challenging us all. How are we going to convince those who do not take ownership to be part of this climate action policy and climate action agenda? How do we do that?
Good question. Yep, my lady.
Hello, my name is Nai Kylie, and you are pressed for time, but I have 4 questions, so I'll just say that.
Now you can only give me one. So the most important
So the presidential compact was signed in 2023, and on August 28th, it's about 2 years, no, 2024. And it has been promised to give us a national sanitation authority, and there was a committed annual 1.7 billion USD. But then there's no clear cut on what is happening, and there's no archive on to show the track records of WASH projects. How, as youth, we are told to take advantage, we are told to be, be in the seats and be there. But how are we supposed to do this when there's no ring fence on the funds that is given to youth, and then there's no clear cut or archive for us to track government accountability? Because like Valerie clearly said, there's no youth policy without climate, and every climate conversation has to include a development conversation where we look at the crisis. Thank you.
Okay, now thank you. So Ruth, that comes back to you because government had promised us, you will take it from me. Can you kindly get him a microphone? But as we're getting him the microphone, when I come to you, the question is, we are going to be here next year. I promise you. And I'm answering the question that the wonderful young man gave us. For some of our friends who are pathetic, they don't care. They don't, I mean, if the water, my house is not flooded, those people, what do we tell them? So when I come, stand by, please take it away in 20 seconds.
Thank you very much, my dear sister. The presidential compact, like you rightly mentioned, was signed by His Excellency President Akufo-Addo in 2024, a promise of 1.7 billion per annum allocation from government to tackle the WASH crisis that Ghana is faced with. You are right. The current ministry, the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources was disbanded when this government took over. So currently the Ministry of Works, Housing and Water Resources and Ministry of Local Government, they have inherited that presidential compact and they are implementing it. The important thing is that there was a roadmap to its implementation. They are engaging the current government, the 2 ministries, to get it updated, so that ownership can also reside with this current government. But you are spot on the issue of tracking it. All of us should need to put our heels on the ground to see how the tracking, at WaterAid, we have been tracking it. And to be very fair, the government came in with the financing of WASH at the local government level. If you read the president directive, MMDs are supposed to use 10% of their common fund allocation for water and 10% for sanitation. So again, the youth have a responsibility to engage your district assemblies. Are they actually allocating the 10% from the common fund for water, for sanitation, and even another 10% for health? Are they allocating and are they deploying the resources? So please, when you have the opportunity to attend your local assembly meetings, please ask these questions. But at the national level also, we are tracking the national budget, to see how government is performing on meeting that 1.7 billion per annum. Thank you.
I wish I could come to you. I really wish I could come to you. In 10 seconds, I will keep my 10 seconds. Please, in 10 seconds, make the point.
Yeah, so, yes, the money the commitment has been given, but it has been redirected for the energy levy. So how are we supposed to hold our MD, the assemblies, responsible when there is no money to account for in their coffers?
Yes, so common funds is allocated based on how much government gets from tax revenue, and we have the administrator of common fund that does the disbursement through the Ministry of Finance and to the districts. So please, I urge that you engage the district assembly. I think the transfers go to them, but I also may agree where we don't have the money as a state, where do we get the money from? Which means that also in terms of responsibility as citizens, we also need to pay the required taxes, and then government will mobilize the taxes. But when government do mobilize, it's also our responsibility to ensure that the resources are what? Judiciously used. And I think that's the point, Madam, you are making, which I agree. So please, let's engage our MMDAs at the assembly meetings to ask questions about how the 10% allocations are being used, whether they are used judiciously for water or sanitation, and then we can be able to engage more for more resources.
Be kind to me. I've been kind to you. You should also be kind to me. Jerry, next year we're going to be sitting here. One thing you want to see. Okay, so this is my direct question to you. One thing you want to see next year when we come back here that has changed about our fight towards water insecurity and climate change in just 5 seconds.
Okay, thank you very much. I think the most important thing that I want to see in our next conversation on this one is policymakers and duty bearers to move from conversations and to actions. I think a lot has been said about youth or young people involvement. But I think we are not much involved into the conversation of climate and then water issues. Let's take the fight against galamsey, for example. I think our agents have been engaged a lot, but the youth are not being engaged.
Okay.
Did we also try the youth to see whether they can fight galamsey?
Good point.
It's the youth that are engaged in this activity, and we are not engaging them. We rather use others to fight who are also people who are looking for a job. So let's try the youth to see whether they'll be able to fight this canker we have been battling with all the time.
Good point. So let's move from talking and in the balance of disease or cook. Let's cook, right? Yes. All right, we're going to cook.
Yes.
Patrick, one thing you want to see next year?
Yeah, maybe mine will be an add-on to his. I think that we should move from consultations to co-creation. We should move from every day, the government with just a few people sits at their office, does something, and when they meet the youth, this is what we've done, and then this is what we want you guys to know and track. No, we should be in the rooms together and create these solutions. The youth also have ideas, they have innovations that they can share. The solutions sit with us. We are the ones that are going to be implementing these things. So the government, whoever, the agencies should sit with the youth. Let's co-create the solutions so that we own it and then we implement it. Don't create them and bring them for us to implement them. No, let's be the ones to work with you today so that we can also implement with you. Thank you.
Noted. Valerie, answering my brother's question. For our friends who are apathetic, they don't care, and what should they do?
It's an age-old question between developed parties and then, developing countries. Whether you like it or not, it will affect you. If you decide to do something about it, bless you. If you decide not to do something about it, that's unfortunate, but it will still affect you and affect the people that you care about. And the golden rule is that do unto others what you want others to do unto you. If it will affect you and it will affect your loved ones, I think that you should be considerate enough to think about it. Should I add my last thoughts?
No, I'll get that for that. Thank you, Valerie. Belinda, your microphone. Next year, we will sit here again. What one change are you looking for? Just one that if they do for you, you would be satisfied.
I want leaders to invest in local communities that are affected by climate change.
That's a good one. Very succinct, very, poignant. And I'm very sad. I mean, the conversation is getting very interesting, but we've got to go. And so you've listened, you've watched, and I'm sure policymakers, you can hear this. These are not old people, in the words of an old politician, who think that they have just coconut heads. But these are wise submissions on how we can combat together and fight climate change and water insecurity. I think for me, my greatest lesson today is that if we don't take this fight very serious, a time may come where we may have to import water to the northern part of the country. That's a very sad reality. And today being International Youth Day, WaterAid in partnership with Joy News did this dialogue where we spoke to young Ghanaians and how they think we should shape conversations around climate change and water insecurity. It's been a delight having you stay on with us. Oh, a big hand to my audience. You've been very good and very affable. I want to say thank you for tuning in and joining in. And my name is Derek Elom Ashilevi. Big kudos to all the team, the production team, for helping us pull this off. The camera guys, Silicon House, and the Joy News production team as well. We're grateful. Have a great morning. Bye-bye.
Palladium Residences in Achimota isn't just an address, it's the home you truly earned. Secure your place with just a 10% deposit and choose from beautifully designed modern apartments or spacious townhouses built for everyday comfort. This is more than a building. It's a vibrant, curated community with a clubhouse, state-of-the-art gym, and an on-site hotel, all at ABC Junction, minutes from Achimota Mall. Enjoy city energy while retreating to your private sanctuary. Call now to reserve your unit and benefit from limited launch incentives, including priority unit selection, executive pricing, and flexible payment options available. Don't miss the chance to pick the best homes. Book your private site visit today. Call 050-9823-424. Palladium Residences. Live smart, invest better.
Through every stage of life, some things simply stay with us. The spirit of never giving up. A throwback to a bygone era when love was service. The silent statement of love. A thoughtful gesture that deepens bonds, balancing work and life. Every drop refreshes, every sip hydrates, just as it should. I am awake, one for life. Drink water, drink awake. Supporting the National Cardiothoracic Center. This advert is FDA.
Hello, my name is Pamela from Customer Service. Please revalidate your account by texting your Ghana card number to 0500,000 247.
Hey, Abili, wabadim.
Madam, give me the numbers behind your ATM card. I'm calling from the head office.
An email was delivered across to our customers this morning.
Confirm if this is your bank account. 100,100,100.
Thanks for sending your bank card details.
Send the OTP now to avoid cancellation.
EcoBank will never call, email, send an SMS asking for your PIN, OTP, bank card, or Ghana card details.
Don't get played. EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.
Hello, please, I'm calling from Customer Experience Center.
In Biggie's house, there's no place to hide. And even when you think no one is watching, the energy can swing in an instant. This BB Nigeria Season 11. Everything burns brighter. Only the biggest moves tip the scale. Because nothing is given. But everything is for the taking when the world watches. Will you be outshined, or will you step up and take the spotlight? Big Brother Naija Season 11. Showing 24/7 on DSTV Channel 198 and GoTV Channel 49. Headline sponsor, Bet Power.
Gold, bauxite, manganese, lithium, Ghana's minerals, and billions, and now anchor our national reserves. But in the communities that host the mines, the question is simple: what stays here? On the 18th of August 2026, that question gets answered in public.
Here in the catchment communities, this is what's really at stake: jobs, local content, corporate social responsibility. People here want a fair share of what's mined on their land. And in the room, the conversation will be about what the large-scale mining companies are doing to better livelihoods in their catchment areas, and also the gold board reforms in the artisanal and small-scale mining sector. And finally, the signing of the catchment charter, which will put all these commitments into writing. The National Mining Dialogue